Hello, everybody. Once again, here, Eduardo Bolsonaro talking with you about what is going on in Brazil.
I know his son, and that's probably why they did it.
Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, Eduardo Bolsonaro.
He's a brilliant, wonderful young man. He's outstanding. I'm very happy with that appointment.
Eduardo Bolsonaro lives here in Brasilia. In fact, he is a member of Congress. He received more votes than any member in the Brazilian Congress. He's also the son of the president, one of his closest advisors.
The son of the president, who has been fantastic. Would you please stand up? The job you've done during a very tough period of time is just fantastic.
And the news that we have today is one classical from the socialists. Socialists, they love to buy things using public money. I mean, taxpayers' money. There is a news here in Brazil that just came up saying that Lula da Silva spent more money in his governmental card, which means a card that uses public money to pay all the private expenses of the president. And he spent more money with this card than Jair Bolsonaro, Michel Temer, and even Dilma Rousseff. This is a classical. The socialists, they love to spend other people's money. But I do remember to you that a couple of years ago, when the president was Jair Bolsonaro, they were used to attack Bolsonaro, saying that he was someone used to spend a lot of money with these governmental cards. But I have to remember you, in the specific case of Bolsonaro, they were used to compare with our former president, Michel Temer. But Michel Temer was a vice president that became president. So in this card, you do not had expenses with a vice president for the obvious reason that you didn't have a vice president. The vice president was the current president at that time. So compare Jair Bolsonaro with Michel Temer was something unfair, but with Lula da Silva, you can compare even with Dilma Rousseff, his colleague from the same party that it was used to rob banks during the 70s when we had here in Brazil the military regimes, and now she is the president of the BRICS Bank, the bank of the group formed by Brazil, South Africa, Russia, China, and India. And now, just joining the group, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Argentina, and Iran. Looks like the Biden administration is not caring that much about with who Brazil is dealing, because Brazil is, Lula da Silva is saying about finish with the dollar standard so we can use the Chinese currency in our trades. And also Lula da Silva talking that United States and European Union, they are not doing that much to stop with the war of Russia against Ukraine. You know pretty much about that, about the Iran warships sanctioned by the United States and docked a couple of months ago here in Rio de Janeiro. And also, if you didn't see that, you have to see how Senator Ted Cruz was asking Mr. Nichols, which is the number 2, when you talk about the Biden administration ministry to secretary to take care about the Western Hemisphere, he were literally without answer when Ted Cruz asked about this thing, about USA sanctioning the Iran ship wars and why Biden administration is not doing nothing when actually Brazil received that ships. Unfortunately, looks like the United States government is not that strong when you had Trump as your president. The other thing that I would like to talk with you is about our January 8th. Looks like pretty much like the January 6th that you had in the United States, but I have to tell you some differences. Here in Brazil, you didn't have one shot. No one got killed. There is no gun that was arrested by the police, nothing. All that you have is invasion in public buildings of the Supreme Court, the Congress. People went inside of our White House, that here we call Planalto Palace. Some tables, some mirrors, some glasses was broken. What is for sure something that we do not support. But the Supreme Court sentenced for the first time the first man because of that case, and his sentence was a sentence of 17 years in prison because of that. By the Brazilian law, I can easily tell you, even more because I'm a lawyer and a federal police officer, that if you go now to the streets, get a gun, and kill someone on the streets, you are not going to take 17 years for that. I can even try to tell you that not even half of this amount of years in jail. But this guy, he was declared guilty because he tried to do a coup. He tried to change the president without an election. So let's go for that. Who would be the new president in case of success in this try of coup? You can say, Eduardo, maybe Jair Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro was in the United States and he didn't support this movement. Number two, there was no one in the capital the whole January in Brazil. Usually, all the authorities are on vacations. And one thing else that we have to add is the quality of the security. These buildings are usually the buildings where you have the most number of people, police, people from the militaries doing the security of these buildings. And it was so easy to the crowd step into of those public buildings. Probably now you are remembering the January 6th of the United States. Even because here, we, the opposition now, we try to get all the cameras to prove who did something wrong and who didn't. And guess what? The Minister of the Justice, he just said that he will not give the cameras. So inside here of the parliamentary committee that is investigating all of that, we approved a requirement to have all of the image of these cameras. And still, this minister said that he's not going to give to the Congress. Can you imagine that going on in your country? A committee made by senators and federal representatives approving a requirement to have access of these cameras. And the guy who can give that, the authority is supposed to give this image to us, he just say, I'm not going to give. This is not serious, but this is what is going on in Brazil. And to finish, I would like to talk with you about Bolsonaro administration. Bolsonaro administration that ended in December of last year, 31st December. We had records. Every year we were used to see records and more records with a higher and higher amount, bigger and bigger amount of drugs getting arrested by the police. For the simple reason that you never had a war against the drugs in Brazil. You just had a president supporting the troops to take the drug dealers during the Bolsonaro administration. That's why Bolsonaro reduced in more than 1/3 the number of murders in Brazil. At the same time that he was giving to people, to the people that follow the law, more access to legal guns. So this is the first point. And the second point was the investments in the law enforcement and the armed forces and all of that. He was rebuilding the equipments of some of the police, giving more access, not only for the people, but also for the cops. More access means less taxes, get easy ways to import guns to Brazil. Legal guns, because the criminals, they already have the right to have guns by the black market. But now what we had in Brazil is, again, President Lula da Silva is cutting now $160 million from the security area. For sure, what we have in Brazil, very unfortunately, is people paying with their blood, because the criminals, they will feel more comfortable to do their crimes. And the history everywhere in the world show us that there is only way to reduce the criminality, and that is fighting against the criminals. If you look for any kind of state in United States that reduce their criminal taxes, or looking now more recently to what happened in El Salvador with President Nayib Bukele, you see that there is only way to reduce crimes in your country, and it's fighting against this. Every time that a politician come to you saying that, oh, let's legalize the drugs, oh no, let's release some of these small criminals, that committed, that made some not that big crimes, let's release them from the prison. Every time they release on that, you are giving more comfortable to the criminals, and as a consequence, they will do more crimes. There is a tripod when you talk about crimes: is gun control, traffic of the drugs, and when they try to release guilty people from the prisons. All of these three things, they are flags of the left wing, the socialists. They always fight for that, and we fight against that. And the history proves that everywhere, every time where you have more legal guns, when the criminals stay in the prison, when you fight back against drug dealers, the crimes goes down. Thank you very much to listen this young but not that old congressman here from Brazil. My name is Eduardo Bolsonaro. I'm a lawyer, federal police officer, and third son of former President Jair Bolsonaro, and also former chairman of the Foreign Affairs and National Defense Committee from Brazil. God bless you. Deus, pátria, família e liberdade.